When Letty and Dom are in Cuba, Dom finds himself racing in a vehicle that turns out to be a ticking time bomb. Now we're taking you to the behind the scenes of this blazing race down the scenic Malecón in Havana to see how we pulled it off.
Why are you hooking up my cousin's car?
Your cousin's car. Not anymore. He needed money, I gave it to him. He can't pay, I take the car.
One thing that I did when I started on Fate of the Furious was to do my homework. Just did research. I wanted to figure out what the fans loved about this franchise and what they missed, if there's anything they missed. And what I keep hearing is just going back to the basics. Car racing, just racing for pink slips.
You want a car? Get it the right way.
Baseball.
Our characters have evolved to kind of save the world status that it's hard to justify a race anymore in this universe. So we were adamant about trying to find the perfect place to set that up. And the idea that we were able to make this race about honor was such a cool thing and such a throwback to the first one, ironically. He knows it doesn't matter what's under a hood. The only thing that matters is who's behind the wheel.
And race his car.
Basically stripped the car of all its heavy parts, left the essentials, and now we're about to start the race.
Y tus trailers, visita mi canal.
One of the things that we wanted in this drag race is not to make it be just a regular drag race from start to finish, because we've done those in Fast and Furious. Let's make it through the city. They've got to make right-hand turns, left-hand turns, around people, around cars. And we'll give them blockers. The motorcycles will be blockers who will block the traffic just for a split second.
So we're getting ahead of these guys, we're blocking traffic and stopping everybody from coming in through the intersection so these guys can just charge as fast as they can. It's been fun. The streets are a little dirty, a little slippery here and there, but you kind of spot your lines and it all works out. It's been a good experience here out here in Havana riding. Sometimes pulling a dirty move here and there, launching a bike in front of cars and trying to keep Dom from winning the race.
We said, that's not enough. We've got to have something that he has to deal with.
Dom has rigged this car to go faster, but at the same time, it's also about to explode. And the harder he drives this car, the more likely it's going to explode. And it happens right here on the Malecón.
The Malecón is the thoroughfare of the city. It's the coastal byway, if you will. It's very much the scenic route. Beautiful, and in a lot of ways, the way people travel from one point of the city to the other. So what we were tasked with doing is finding spots to film a few scenes, and we did that, but we had to decide how will we make shutting down the Malecón possible. And it was a big coordinated effort between the government, the transit authorities, the police department, the firemen. We had meetings after meetings after meetings after meetings. I mean, you're shutting down about a half a mile of the road. That's a lot, because we're not just shooting one part here, we're actually shooting another part further down the road. So at the end of the day, we're really shutting down the whole road.
We were probably hitting close to 100 on the Malecón, and Fred was having a hard time in the helicopter keeping up with him.
This is one of the most beautiful stretches of Havana, right off the water, and this is where we end our race. They turn onto the Malecón, they avoid traffic, but Dom's car has literally been transformed into a bomb.
The fire almost gives away your speed, because at slow speed you can tell you're not going fast, but when you're moving, it's just blowing back all over the windshield, pulling into the car. I mean, it's the real deal.
trying to make a car go backwards fast was tough. But what Dennis McCarthy did was put a car that was a four-wheel steering car. He gave us four-wheel steering, which really helped that we could actually do 90 miles an hour and keep it fairly controllable. But that's how we did it safely.
What better way to open a movie that has a bunch of cars and a bunch of action sequences with cars than Cuba? It's the perfect place, not only for the story, but just as a backdrop to open Fast 8, and I loved it.
All right, y'all, when we traveled to Iceland for the 8th movie, we stepped into the cold, unfortunately, to capture some of the biggest action scenes in franchise history. Take a look at everything that went into the making of Fast 8's climatic action sequences. Like I said, the biggest one yet. F8. We at it again, sending love from Iceland. Let's go.
I don't think anybody's going to ever see an action sequence like the one we filmed on the frozen lake in Iceland. It's an incredible third act.
We have action set pieces unlike anything you've ever seen.
I think it delivers everything you've grown to be accustomed to in a Fast and Furious film.
The team of artists that are working on this film bring a lot to the table.
Literally the best in the business that has ever been.
We're standing on the lake right now, you guys.
22 inches of ice. But when we first got here, couldn't even put a car out here. We didn't come out here on snowmobiles because the car would fall. It was only 8 inches when we first came out.
Just to figure out if we can shoot, if it's safe enough, it's a production in itself.
When people are risking themselves for stunts and doing it practical like we do, instead of just saying, let's go on a computer and just draw it in, to me, I love it.
Our safety team has 10 people. We have 2 rescue diver teams. We have ice engineer, myself, and we have 2 medics. And our ice engineers drilled some test holes to measure the strength of the ice, measure the thickness of the ice, and the general condition of the ice.
The engineers would take a look at it and they would know within 5-10 minutes how many pounds per square foot we could then put on the ice.
We had 16 cars out there one time on a lake. That's a lot of weight. I don't think anybody ever shot with that many cars on a frozen lake.
All the heavy vehicles, we want, 30 to 50 feet space in between them.
Don't put them all together or you're just going to sink. Especially in the ripsaw, which was 14,000 pounds. And once everybody heard that you'd sink, nobody got near him.
We have some of the newest, fastest, most technologically advanced vehicles on planet Earth. This is Roman's vehicle, and as you can tell, it stands out. We're about to test the Lamborghini on the ice.
We did about 2 days of testing nothing but studs on tires to see which ones work better for what cars. That means steel studs driven into the wheels so that you can get traction.
First Lamborghini in ice.
Today we're at the part where our heroes first get on the ice.
We wrote this sequence where it was a race across a frozen lake.
The cars that you see driving on the ice, they're actual Lamborghinis. Everyone always says that. Is that a kid car, But no, they're real Lamborghinis.
What happens is there's a rocket is fired. It goes right behind Roman, hits the ground and opens this big crack up that's following him. It sucks half of his car in. So to do that, I had him cut a big trough in the ice. I think it was like 150 feet long. And then I filled it with water and ice, and the Lambo goes darting into the water underneath the ice. It actually went under a lot farther than they thought. They thought it was going to hit and skip, and it just dove under beautifully.
Roll cameras. Rolling. It's about 22,000 gallons of water. About to jump in and do this scene.
Tyrese is in the vehicle and he's cracked through the ice and sinking under the water. We're going to put Tyrese in the car, dry, slowly lower him down, and we've cut holes in the bottom of the car so the water can rush in and fill up, and it'll stop right about at his chin level. On action, we open up our big giant valve and let the water run down our slip and slide ramp here and into the tank and over the windshield of Tyrese's car.
The door's gonna get pulled out of the ice, fly out 24 to 30 feet, hit the ground with a big thud.
We got Roman over here sliding down on the door.
And right here, we're gonna set off an explosion. We have 2 sticks of Kenny Pack. We're gonna have 6 gallons of alcohol fuel mixture to make the fireball and the snow explosion, simulating the torpedo hitting the ice.
Another day in the life of a stuntman.
Biggest gag we did up in Iceland was what we call the submarine breach. Cypher has infiltrated the submarine, so she now has control of it. The submarine comes from a depth and shoots straight up through the bottom of the ice. What they've asked me to do is to try and bend the surface of the ice in a sphere shape directly underneath the bad guys. So we're gonna have 4 of the bad guys on tow lines and guide cables. They'll come in at about 25, 30 miles an hour, and they're gonna drive over our explosive charges. This is gonna be the single largest amount of high explosives that will set off, 180 pounds.
You have to have your head on a swivel, and you have to really be thinking all the time just to keep everything safe.
We have a good estimate where everything's gonna go, but we don't know what happens when these things are compounded. So we're gonna err on the side of extreme safety for this.
So what we do, stick the dynamite in a 6-gallon pail of ammonium nitrate. We drill a hole in the ice, we sink in a bucket. There's gonna be 4 of them, 1 for each vehicle, and then we're able to pull the vehicle right over the top of it and not deviate, an inch in either direction. So we're gonna go with 6 gallons of ammonium nitrate under each vehicle at a depth of 12 feet. Once they get directly above the ammonium nitrate, we trigger our button and we blow the ice up. And that should give us about 20 to 30 feet of lift on each of the vehicles. We should have all 4 vehicles flying in the air, flipping, tossing, turning, and about a 200-foot geyser going up into the sky with chunks of ice this big. You won't hear it too much because the water muffles the sound, but you will definitely feel it in your bones. A lot of power.
Oh shit! We're gonna need a bigger truck!
Awesome. Nice job, you guys.
In the Fate of the Furious, the team hit the streets of the Big Apple. But shooting there offered a unique challenge. On screen, we like to push our cars into triple digits, but shooting on the streets of New York meant keeping speeds to a cool 35 miles per hour. Here's a look at how we captured the action of New York.
New York in itself, the metropolis, is such a great canvas for streetcar chases, and the action that ensues in New York City is just so hard to beat. Such a great location.
You see our team drive through Times Square. First you think, how'd they do that? Second, you think, damn, they did that.
As soon as I heard we have to go shoot in New York, I was like, well, this is special. This is beyond a challenge. New York has got the toughest restrictions.
Say you're going to do a car chase in New York City, New York Police Department, they have seen Fast and Furious movies and they know the destruction that we incur. And so we had to have a lot of discussions about where cameras were going to be placed, exact locations, and what time of day was going to come into play. So it's tough. It's a really tough thing to handle.
All right, let's go.
The fact that they kind of opened their arms up for us was very good for us. But originally we went in there saying we're not going to be able to do this at all. I mean, who's going to let us race cars through Times Square? The biggest problem about shooting in New York City is people, they walk everywhere they go. You have a lot more people on the ground in New York City than you have in any other city. And the fact that they're not going to stop for a movie crew.
You have to really be thinking all the time just to keep everything safe because the streets are crowded. When you do get them off the street, they're off the street by about a quarter inch. They don't step off back away from the curb. And you can be coming by at 45, 50 miles an hour right against the curb and they are not moving.
We had 150 to 200 people around some of the cars we weren't using, and I was just amazed that you'd see from every single lifestyle, from every single part of the world, people taking pictures of Fast and Furious cars. And police officers were coming over and leaning down and saying, hey, can I, come over and lean down and get a picture? The New York Police Department came in. I got to say that they are a big fan of Fast and Furious too. They let us do things a little more than what I think they normally do and said, we're going to let you do it until we can see that you're at a point where we think it's dangerous. And then we're going to say no, because nobody's ever done what we've done in New York City. And the New York Police Department and the mayor were part of it. Dom's team on the street is so iconic primarily because you don't ever see cars like that going that fast in New York City. We started out with going 5 miles an hour. You go 5 miles an hour, show us your entire run. We're going to go 10 miles an hour the next time. Then we're going to go 15. We're going to keep building it up until you can prove to me that you've got everything in hand.
Just at the end.
That's when you have to build up the relationship with all of your people that are working on the streets.
Police officers were very, very nice, very good to us. They'd let traffic run, and then they'd block it off. And as soon as that traffic got through our certain set of blocks, they would let us go, and then let traffic go right behind us. Well, you have to have all those cars clear, which takes time. And when you have open roads in New York City, guess where all the people go? Hey, there's no cars. Let's go out and have a picnic in the road. So it just gets filled with people just like that. I mean, quickly. And then as soon as they say go, our cars got to go. And so it's like a nightmare going, guys, there's people in the streets. Just watch the guys in the street. And then they're going, should we keep coming? Yeah, keep coming. I hope they get out of your way. This is the shot.
When you're in New York, when they say go, you have 20 seconds, so you have the light. When the light changes, you're done. You stop. Or you get a real ticket, or you go to jail. I mean, it literally is like that.
They see no cars in the street for, 3 seconds. It's time to go across the street. And that's something you have to always watch. Then there's the crazy ones that want to jump out there and stop the movie.
We hit every single iconic spot.
We shot Times Square, Flatiron Building, the library. We were shooting the library, and we're shooting out across to see the library and the steps and all that. And FK Gray's talking about, just make sure that nobody's got their phones out, and the DP starts laughing. And then when you see the shot, you don't see the steps. You don't see, it's just a wall of people and all with their phones up like this. That's all you see is phones. Not his vision, but it works.
You can only drive the speed limit like 35 miles an hour. You cannot go faster. If you do, you get arrested.
Sometimes they say you can't ever even break traction on a surface. We were able to do that. I mean, it's certain things that I'm glad that they were able to help us, create, an homage to New York.
So it is challenging. I wish that they would let us do a little bit more because it is a great place to shoot.